Hey there, and welcome to Family Revenge. We're so glad you're here. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can stay with us for every twist and turn. Let's jump right in. They always made me feel like I didn't belong. But that day, watching my daughter collapse in front of them and hearing my own mother mutter, "Not this again?" That was the moment something inside me finally broke. My name's Ashley. I'm 33. I live in Knoxville, Tennessee, and every damn year I drag myself to this miserable lake trip for my daughter, Maddie. She's 14, sweet, sensitive, funny, the total opposite of the rest of my family. It's tradition, apparently. My retired dad plays the grumpy fisherman, my mom critiques every life choice in sight, and my perfect older sister, Heather, floats around like she's hosting a damn Southern Living photo shoot with her two boys and smug husband. We got there on a Friday morning. By early afternoon, Maddie pulled me aside and said her side was hurting. She wasn't crying or whining, just pale, sweaty, and holding her stomach like something wasn't right. I knelt down, checked her forehead. "You okay, baby?" She shook her head, real quiet. "It's sharp, like a cramp, but worse." Before I could say anything, Heather walked by with her stupid Yeti tumbler and rolled her eyes. "Oh no." "Not again," Mom chimed in from the porch. "Maddie, honey, you barely got out of the car. How can you already need a break?" I stood up, shielding Maddie with my body. "She's not feeling well," my mom scoffed. "She never is." Always something with her, Heather fake whispered to her boys, loud enough for us to hear. "Guess who's being dramatic again?" Just like her mom used to be. Quick note. Before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. We were barely unpacked and the guilt was already creeping in. I should have left, should have trusted my gut, but Maddie begged me not to make a scene, so I didn't. Instead, we went on the planned hike, which wasn't some gentle stroll. It was steep, muddy, and humid as hell. Maddie kept falling behind, holding her side, breathing heavy. Heather kept glancing back and smirking. "Come on, Maddie." "You're not a toddler," Mom laughed. "You know she likes the attention. Just like her mother." "Oh, my back, oh, my feet. Remember?" At dinner, Maddie didn't touch her food. She stared at her plate like the smell made her sick. I rubbed her back and kept my voice low. "Do you want to lie down?" She just shook her head again. Meanwhile, the rest of them passed around wine, laughing, whispering behind their hands. Dad raised his glass and said, "To peace and quiet," eventually. Then Maddie stood up, slowly, like it hurt, and took one step toward the hallway. She dropped like a stone, face twisted in pain, fists clenched. She screamed, not loud, but sharp, enough to make every chair scrape back. Everyone froze. And then my mother muttered with a mouthful of damn potato salad, "Not this again." I lost it. "Call an ambulance!" I screamed, already on my knees next to Maddie, my hands under her head. They just stared. But I wasn't asking. I was done waiting. The EMTs loaded Maddie into the ambulance, and I climbed in right behind them, holding her cold hand with both of mine while she whimpered through clenched teeth. "I've got you, baby. I've got you." She was sweating through her shirt, her skin almost gray. One of the techs said her appendix looked ready to burst. If it hadn't already. I nodded, pretending I wasn't shaking. Inside, I was already screaming. At the hospital, it moved fast. Monitors beeping, nurses buzzing around her. The ER doc barely looked at me when he said, "We're going in now. Emergency appendectomy. It can't wait." They shoved a clipboard in my hands. "Sign here, here, initial there." My hand couldn't keep up, but I scribbled my name down. Then Maddie looked at me, wide-eyed, terrified. "Will I be okay?" I leaned in and kissed her forehead. "You're gonna be fine. I promise. I'm right here." They wheeled her through double doors, and just like that, I was standing in the hallway alone, her moans still echoing in my ears. I sat down on one of those stiff blue waiting chairs and pulled out my phone. My fingers flew. "Me? Maddie's in emergency surgery. Appendix. It's serious. Please come." Sent to Mom, Dad, Heather. I stared at the screen. No bubbles, no read receipts. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. I refreshed it. Nothing. I stood up. Paste. Sat back down. Checked again. Still nothing. Then I opened Instagram. I don't even know why. Habit, maybe. Right at the top, fresh post from Heather. It was the four of them back at the lake house. Heather in a sun hat, my dad holding a beer, mom with her wine. All smiles like they just won the damn lottery. The caption? Finally, peace without the drama queen. That emoji at the end, like it was some inside joke, made my stomach flip. I stared at it. My fingers froze around the phone. My hands started to shake. They knew. I told them. Maddie was in surgery and they were drinking, joking, celebrating the fact that she wasn't there. No, not just her. Me. That's when it all snapped into place. Not the years of passive digs or backhanded compliments, but the whole truth. The whole rotten truth I'd been swallowing since I was a kid. I was never the daughter, never the sister. I was the scapegoat, the joke, the permanent punchline at every family dinner, the example of how not to turn out. I felt it all at once. Every eye roll, every whispered insult, every time they told Maddie she was just like me, and didn't mean it as a compliment. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I sat there and let the shaking settle, let the silence grow thick around me, and I decided they were done. I opened my contacts and found my lawyer's number. I didn't hit call, not yet, but I stared at his name like it was a loaded gun. I'd pay whatever it took. I didn't care. I had let them stomp all over me for too long. My daughter was in surgery, and they were clinking glasses. This wasn't just petty anymore. This was dangerous. I looked up as the double doors opened. A nurse stepped out, looked around, spotted me. "You're Maddie's mom?" I stood fast. "Yeah, I'm here. She's in recovery. Everything went well. You can come back in a few," I nodded. "Thank you." The nurse walked off, and I sat down again, phone still in my hand, thumb hovering over the screen. They were going to hear from me. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Now. But I wouldn't yell. I wouldn't explain. I'd hit them where it actually hurts. The house. The one thing they never expected me to protect. And for once, I wouldn't wait for their approval. I'd take it all back before they knew what hit them. The nurse waved me back 20 minutes later. Maddie was asleep, curled up in the hospital bed, IV in her arm, oxygen clipped to her nose. She looked so small in that white blanket. Too small. I pulled up the chair, took her hand, and let the silence wrap around us. That quiet, the kind that only happens when every noise in your brain finally shuts off. That's when the old stuff starts creeping back in. Growing up, Heather was the standard. I was the warning label. She got straight A's, homecoming court, varsity cheer. I got a C in algebra, and suddenly I was not applying myself. If Heather brought home a trophy, it went on the mantle. If I made the honor roll, they said, well, finally. I remember one Thanksgiving when I was maybe 11. I made deviled eggs with Grandma and accidentally used salt instead of sugar in the mix. Everyone made fun of me the whole night, called them Ashley's demon eggs. Heather dumped the whole tray in the trash, and Mom just said, well, we can't serve that, can we? Every mistake I made stuck to me like tar. Heather? She could light the curtains on fire and they'd call it a phase. So yeah, when I met Kyle at 17, dumb, loud, charming in that way dangerous boys always are, I fell hard, fast. I knew he wasn't good for me. But he made me feel seen, and I held on to that like a life raft. Got pregnant before I even graduated. Told my parents in the living room. Dad didn't say a word, just walked out. Mom cried into a napkin like someone had died. Heather covered her mouth like she was trying not to laugh. Wow, she said. Classic. They called it a mistake, an embarrassment, said I ruined my future, asked if I even knew who the father was. I wanted to disappear. The only person who didn't turn her back on me was Grandma. She showed up the next day with a Target bag full of baby books and prenatal vitamins. She looked me straight in the eye and said, "This baby is a blessing." Don't let anyone make you feel different. She came to every appointment, every LeMay's class. She was there when Maddie was born, crying harder than I was. She loved Maddie, spoiled her rotten, protected her even when I couldn't. When Grandma got sick, it was fast. 3 months, in and out of hospitals. My mom barely visited. Heather didn't even come to the funeral, claimed she had a work conference. But when the will came out, that's when the real chaos hit. Everyone expected the house to go to my mom. She was the oldest and the most stable, apparently. But Grandma left it to Maddie. Not me. Maddie. In a trust. I was just named the guardian until she turned 25. That decision broke the family. I'll never forget Mom's face when the lawyer read it, like someone had spit in her soup. She said it was manipulative, that Grandma wasn't in her right mind. Heather called me behind closed doors and asked if I coached her into it. I didn't even argue. I was too tired, too used to being the punching bag. The house was big, older, but in a good neighborhood. I moved in with Maddie, and for a while, it felt like breathing again. But then my parents started having money problems. They asked to move in, just for a little while. Heather helped them pack. I said yes, like an idiot. Then Heather had her second kid and said she just needed space for a few months. I said yes again. That's how it always worked. They asked, I gave, they criticized, I stayed quiet. I let them pretend the house wasn't mine to control, even though every damn bill had my name on it. They treated it like it was theirs. Brought friends over like it was a vacation rental, rearranged the kitchen, changed the locks once and blamed me for not checking my key. And I let it happen, because somewhere deep down, I still wanted to be accepted, still wanted to be the daughter they'd never let me be. But sitting there in that hospital chair, watching Maddie sleep after being mocked, ignored, and nearly dying while they sipped drinks and posted jokes, something hardened. They'd crossed the line with me years ago, but now they crossed it with her. That house wasn't theirs. It wasn't mine either. It belonged to the one person Grandma actually trusted, Maddie, and I was done pretending. The beeping from Maddie's monitor was steady, soft. She was out cold, breathing slow, color back in her cheeks. I sat there, elbows on my knees, her hand wrapped in mine. The doctor had stopped by an hour earlier, said it was appendicitis, textbook case, but if we'd waited much longer, it could have ruptured. She got lucky, he said. Real lucky. I didn't feel lucky. I checked my phone. Still nothing from my family. No missed calls, no voicemails. But they were active. Don't worry. Heather had just posted another lakeside pic. This time, it was the kids roasting marshmallows while my mom lounged in a camping chair like royalty. The caption said, "Simple joys when you block out the chaos." Block out the chaos. They meant my daughter's emergency surgery. They didn't care. They never did. I just finally stopped lying to myself about it. I stared at Maddie's little hand in mine. Her fingernails chipped from biting them when she's nervous. Same way I used to when I was her age. She was just a kid, smart, gentle, never wanted to bother anyone. And they treated her like garbage because she came from me. And I let them stay in her house, let them sleep under her roof, eat her food, mock her, dismiss her pain like it was nothing. That wasn't just neglect anymore, that was danger. And I wasn't going to be quiet about it this time. I stepped into the hallway, called the lawyer I hadn't spoken to since Grandma's will got finalized. He picked up fast. "I need to talk eviction," I said. "Who's the tenant?" "My parents and my sister." There was a pause. "You sure?" "They're not on the deed. It's my daughter's trust, and it's not a home anymore. It's a threat." He didn't push back after that, just started listing what we'd need. I gave him every detail, dates, names, timeline. I was done playing nice. We stayed in the hospital 2 more nights. Maddie got stronger. I didn't bring up the house, just told her everything was fine, that we'd be home soon. When they finally released her, I tucked her into the passenger seat, took the long way back, and didn't stop for anything. The house was quiet when we pulled up. No one came out to help. No one even looked out the window. Maddie went straight to her room. I could hear her unpacking, slow, careful, wincing now and then. I waited until her door clicked shut before I opened my bag and pulled out the manila envelope the lawyer had mailed overnight. 3 printed copies inside. Eviction notices, legally binding, signed, and sealed. I walked to the kitchen. The table was full of junk. Water bottles, mail, half-finished puzzles, like a damn waiting room. I shoved it all to one side and set the envelope right in the center. Then I stood there and looked at it for a long time. They weren't home, but they'd be back soon. Probably laughing, tanned, drunk off rosé and self-righteousness. They'd walk through that door like nothing happened, but everything had happened, and now the paper was waiting. The warning they never thought they'd get. They had 30 days, and this time, I wasn't backing down. I stayed sitting at the kitchen table the entire time, didn't move, barely blinked, just waited. I heard the tires crunch into the driveway, car doors slamming, the usual sound of overpacked bags thudding against the porch steps. Laughter floated through the door, that high-pitched fake-ass kind my sister does when she's showing off. Then the door opened. Heather walked in first, sunglasses still on, dragging 2 rolling suitcases like she was checking into a resort. Mom followed, already ranting about how bad the gas station coffee was. Dad brought up the rear, sunburned and scowling at something on his phone. Heather froze mid-step when she saw me. You're home early, she said, like this was her house. None of them noticed the envelope at first, then Mom did. She picked it up like it might bite her, peeled it open, and read maybe 4 lines before her mouth dropped open. What the hell is this? She snapped, waving the paper in the air. Exactly what it says, I said. 30 days to vacate. Dad's eyes narrowed. You're kicking us out? Heather dropped her bags. Are you serious right now? Dead serious. This is your daughter's house, Mom snapped, shaking the paper at me like I hadn't read it 10 times already. Exactly, I said, calm, and I'm the guardian of the trust. This is a legal notice. You've got 30 days. Heather marched over and slammed her palm on the table. You're being dramatic. Over what? A few jokes? You know how you get when you're emotional. I tilted my head. She collapsed. In front of all of you, and not one of you came to the hospital. Oh, come on, Mom said. That wasn't life or death. Kids fake pain all the time. She needed emergency surgery. Her appendix was about to burst, but you were too busy posting selfies with wine glasses, Dad finally spoke. You always do this. Make yourself the victim. Twist things. This house wasn't even supposed to go to you. Heather jumped in. Exactly. You manipulated Grandma. She wasn't thinking clearly. And now you're using that signature like a weapon. I leaned back in my chair. If she wasn't thinking clearly, why'd she leave it to Maddie, not me? You ever think maybe she saw you all for what you are? Mom gasped like I'd slapped her. Ungrateful little... No, I cut in. You don't get to throw that word at me anymore. I've let you live here, rent-free for years. You insult me, insult my kid, treat this place like a damn hotel, and I stayed quiet. But I'm done. Heather's voice rose. You think Maddie wants this? You're doing all this in her name like she's some shield. She nearly died, Heather. And none of you cared. Silence hit the room like a slap. I stood up. You always said this wasn't my house, right? Well, it's not. It's hers. And I'm finally treating it that way. Mom's face twisted. You can't be serious. You expect your own parents to just pack up and leave? Yup. Where are we even supposed to go? Dad barked. I looked straight at Heather. Why don't you move in with her? Seems like you're all so close. Heather blinked. Excuse me? You said I was selfish, ungrateful, manipulative. So here's your chance to step up. Take them in. She didn't say a word, didn't even glance at them. I nodded. That's what I thought. They all stood there, mouths half open, looking like I'd flipped their world upside down. I didn't yell, didn't cry. I didn't need to. You have 30 days, I said, steady as hell. That's the only thing I'll be repeating. Then I walked right past them and went to check on my daughter. First time in my life I ever left a room with power. The silence after I left the kitchen didn't last long. Within an hour, the house turned into a pressure cooker. Doors started slamming hard enough to shake the picture frames. Drawers opened and shut like someone was trying to snap them off the tracks. Every step across the hardwood was a stomp. Every cabinet slammed like punctuation. I didn't say a word. Maddie was upstairs, trying to rest, still sore and moving slow. Every time she walked to the bathroom or down the hall, someone made sure to sigh loud or get in her way. My mom would mutter, "Well, here comes the queen," like Maddie had thrown them into the street herself. My dad stopped saying anything directly to me. He just started whistling whenever I entered the room, like I wasn't even there. Real mature. Heather, she kept it subtle. Like leaving open moving boxes near the entryway, half-packed with winter clothes in August, but placed perfectly so guests would see them. Like she was a victim in a charity commercial. And the social media campaign? That kicked off real fast. First it was Heather posting a pic of the boys with sad faces, sitting on the floor next to 2 boxes of toys. Caption, trying to explain to them why Grandma and Grandpa are being kicked out of their home. Then my mom joined in, a teary-eyed selfie from the backyard swing with the words, "Heartbroken." After everything we gave my dad, who barely knew how to text, somehow managed to post a photo of the packed car trunk with the caption, "Thrown out by our daughter." Not my name, just our daughter. Like I was Voldemort. And people ate it up. Relatives started blowing up my phone. Some I hadn't spoken to in years. Aunt Janet sent, "I just don't understand why you're doing this to your parents." Cousin Troy chimed in, "They're old, Ash. Come on one message after another. Cruel, disrespectful, cold, Like I was some heartless monster pulling the rug out from under them. No one asked what happened. No one asked how Maddie was doing. She saw some of the posts. I could tell. She didn't say much, just stayed quiet. But I caught her looking at her phone with that look. Like her chest hurt, but she didn't want to make it worse. She stopped posting her own stuff altogether. That pissed me off more than anything. They wanted to make her feel guilty, shame her for existing, for being the reason they no longer had a free ride. And for what? For finally standing up? I didn't respond to a single message, not one. Not because I didn't want to. Believe me, I had paragraphs locked and loaded. But I wasn't giving them more fuel. Let them tell their stories, let them cry to their little audience. I knew the truth. Maddie knew the truth. Still, every time I walked through that house, I could feel the pressure behind every wall. Like I was living inside a grenade that hadn't gone off yet. The worst part? They acted like I started this. Like I hadn't given them years of chances. Like I didn't warn them with every ounce of patience I had. 30 days. That's what the paper said. We were down to 23, and I could feel it coming. The blow-up. The last desperate swing. They weren't going quietly, but neither was I. Day 16. I was making tea in the kitchen when I heard the knock. Not the usual slam and barge-in move they all did. Just a knock, light, measured. I opened the door and there she was, Heather, alone. No boys, no mom, no smug grin. She looked different, like she'd finally run out of spin. She stepped inside like she owned the floor, didn't ask if she could come in. Her arms were crossed, her voice flat, like she was reading from a script. "You made your point," she said. "Now stop." Before the damage is forever, I didn't move. "You're late." She sighed, like I was the unreasonable one. "You're doing this to prove something, Ashley. We all know it. Just, no," I cut in. "I'm doing this to protect my kid." "You remember her, right? Maddie? The one who collapsed while you all joked about her faking it?" Heather flinched. Barely. But it was there. "I'm not here to argue," she said. "I'm here because it doesn't have to go this far. You could still take it back. No court. No sheriff. Just call it done." I stepped closer. "And then what? Let you all stay? Pretend like nothing happened? Let Maddie tiptoe around the people who made her feel like garbage while she was still recovering?" Heather raised her chin. "You're being bitter." "No, I'm being clear. This is vindictive," she said. "It's not just them you're punishing. It's everyone. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm ending a pattern," she scoffed. "God, you sound like one of those self-help podcasts." I stared her down. "I sound like someone who's done being your family's punching bag." "You think this makes you strong?" she said, voice rising. "You think power is hurting people back?" "No. I think power is not letting them tear you down anymore. And I'm finally there, Heather. I'm done." She blinked like she didn't recognize me. Maybe she didn't. She grabbed her keys off the counter. How long had those been there? And turned toward the door. "You're gonna regret this," she muttered. I didn't flinch. "No, I won't." She slammed the door behind her, but it didn't echo the way it used to. It just shut. And for the first time, it didn't rattle anything in me. She was right about one thing. Something had changed. Just not the way she hoped. After Heather slammed the door, things went eerily quiet. For a day. Then they doubled down. New post from Mom, her sitting in the living room, surrounded by half-packed boxes. Caption: "After raising 2 daughters in this house, this is what we get." Heather posted another pic of the boys looking sad with some inspirational quote about family cutting you the deepest. My dad posted a picture of an empty hallway, literally just a hallway with the caption, "Almost gone." Hope she's proud that one made me laugh. Just a little. Then came the messages. Again. Aunt Janet. "Sweetie, it's getting out of hand. Please think of your parents, some random cousin from Florida I hadn't talked to in 10 years. You always were cold, but this? Unreal." And the best one, my uncle, the recovering alcoholic who once borrowed Grandma's jewelry. "I hope you can live with yourself." So I sat down on a Wednesday night, poured myself a glass of water, and pulled out my phone. I'd had enough. I opened Facebook first, the audience was bigger there. Then I uploaded the selfie, the one from the lake, the one they posted while Maddie was in the ER. Mom, Dad, Heather, drinks in hand, sunglasses on, smiling like they hadn't just left my kid to suffer alone. And I wrote, "Since everyone's been asking," that photo was taken while my daughter, Maddie, was in emergency surgery for a nearly ruptured appendix. None of them came to the hospital. Not a call, not a message. Just silence. My daughter could have died, and they posted this instead. Finally, peace without the drama queen. That drama queen was Maddie, 14 years old. For the record, the house isn't mine, it's hers. My grandmother left it to Maddie in a trust because she saw what I was too scared to admit. That love isn't loud. That support doesn't come with conditions. And that blood doesn't mean loyalty. I didn't throw anyone out. I ended something that should have ended years ago. 30 days. That's all they got. And trust me, it's still more than they gave us. I hit post and walked away. 15 minutes later, I had 37 comments. An hour later, over 200. By the next morning, it was everywhere. Screenshots, shares, reposts. People I didn't even know tagging me, messaging support. My old boss from the diner sent me a DM that just said, "Damn. Good for you." And the hate? Gone. Not a peep from Aunt Janet. Not a single cousin with moral superiority. And my parents? Silent. Dead silent. No more passive-aggressive selfies, no more captions. The stream of attention dried up. Performance, over. I caught Mom walking around the backyard the next evening. No phone in hand, no dramatic sighs, just pacing. Same with Dad. Barely looked at me when we crossed paths in the hallway. Just kept his eyes down. Even Heather stayed quiet. She hadn't spoken to me since she left that day. No more quotes, no more jabs, just silence. The house, slowly, started feeling less like a war zone. No more doors slamming, no more loud stomping. Just the sound of drawers opening, cardboard being taped shut. We were 5 days from the deadline, and for the first time in years, I could hear myself think. Day 30 showed up like any other. Gray sky, no breeze, quiet, no knock on my door, no dramatic showdown in the kitchen, no last-minute attempt to plead their case. They just loaded their boxes into the back of Heather's husband's truck, like movers working a shift they didn't care about. Mom carried one tote at a time, slow like she was hoping someone would stop her. Dad didn't even look back when he hauled out the last suitcase. Heather didn't say a word, just grabbed her car keys and slammed the hatch shut. I watched from the living room window. Didn't flinch, didn't move. The front door opened one last time. They all stepped out in single file, like it was a fire drill. No goodbye, no speech. Just the slam of the door behind them, loud, final, hollow. Then the car pulled out of the driveway. I waited, counted to 60 in my head, then walked through the house. Every corner felt still. No leftover bags near the stairs. No smell of Mom's cheap perfume floating around. No half-drunk beer cans from Dad sitting on the windowsill. Just space, air, room to breathe. The living room was clear. Kitchen, wiped down. Back hallway, empty, finally. I stood in the doorway of the guest room and stared for a while. The one Heather used to call hers, like she paid rent. Her closet was wide open, nothing but a couple bent hangers clinging to the rack like they were too scared to fall. Then I went upstairs. Maddie was curled up in bed, reading. Her cheeks had color again. Her voice was stronger every day. When she heard me coming, she looked up and tugged her blanket tighter around her shoulders. "They're gone?" I nodded. All of them. She let out this little breath, almost like a laugh. "It already feels better." I smiled. "It is." She didn't ask for details. She didn't need them. She knew. Knew what it cost. Knew what it meant. I sat on the edge of her bed. She leaned her head against my arm. No words. Just the two of us breathing the same calm air for the first time in God knows how long. No tension creeping in through the floorboards. No guilt disguised as concern. No damn whispers behind cupped hands. Just us. The house didn't feel haunted anymore. It felt free, light, like something heavy had been lifted off the roof and tossed into the street. I stood up and walked back down the hall, slow, soaking in the stillness. No more stomping feet. No more slamming cabinets. No one blaming a child for their own failures. This was our house now. Actually, no. It always had been. We just finally cleared out the rot. A week after they left, I heard through a neighbor that my parents had moved in with Heather. I didn't ask. We're just spreads in a town like this. Apparently, it didn't take long. Heather couldn't stand Mom micromanaging her kitchen. Dad complained about the thermostat like it was a full-time job. The boys were loud, the walls were thin, and nobody respected anybody's space. 3 weeks in, Heather snapped and told them to find somewhere else. Now they rent a little one-bedroom over by the gas station on the edge of town. Beige walls, bad plumbing, shared laundry. I passed by once on the way to Maddie's dentist appointment. Mom was standing outside with a plastic ashtray and a sour face. Didn't see me. I didn't stop. I wasn't angry, not anymore. I was done. I stayed in the house, our house. I rented out the spare room to a college student who's never home and pays on time. With the extra help, I cut back my hours at work. I get to pick Maddie up from school now. We cook dinner together. Actual dinner, not just heat and eat crap. We eat at the table, laugh, watch dumb reality shows, and fold laundry. Sometimes we say nothing at all and just enjoy the quiet. That's what peace feels like, not fireworks, not some dramatic movie ending. Just a Thursday night with the dishwasher humming and no one walking on eggshells. We don't talk about them. We don't need to. No more texts, no calls. They don't even try. Maybe they finally realized I meant it. Maybe they're still waiting for me to cave, but I won't. Maddie's safe. I'm steady. The war's over and we won. Quietly. So I guess that's it. No dramatic twist. No. And then they apologized moment. Just peace. And if you're still here listening, let me ask you something. Do you think I went too far? Or not far enough? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you've ever had to cut someone off to protect your peace, hit like and subscribe.